for a good stream. And let's make sure you guys can see my wonderful face here. Tweet just went out. Should have a few folks on. So just a real quick one for the folks that won't be catching this live. What this is a walkthrough on the BBT mining model 3.0. So we were at 2.2 before. This, if you're just catching this and you're like, what is this? Why am I watching this? This is going to be an overview of the analysis that I'm doing on where is all the hash rate going to go. Where can it go? What does price have to do with certain networks to see if it's going to rise in price? If a price rises, that hash rate goes to it. There's a metric ton of hash rate on Ethereum right now. We're going to look at how much hash rate's out there and what that really means by GPU type. And look at some figures that I have in there from an estimation of how many Asics, what's the count of Asics out there. It is configurable. It is, as new information is made available, it will be to where we can make changes to it, but it's a start. You got to start somewhere when you're doing a model like this. And this is kind of the second iteration of this model as we're monitoring the changeover when Ethereum moves over to 2.0. Where does the hash rate go? What networks are most susceptible to absorb that hash rate? So I'm going to switch over real quick. We're going to get right into it. I'm going to try to keep this stream reasonably short as I go through it, and we can get into this. And I will take some questions towards the end. People can make comments if you're catching this. If there's an algorithm not listed, or there's a coin that you're interested in that's not listed that you're personally mining, you can list below and have that below, and we'll get that added. So let's take a look here at the spreadsheet here. So hopefully everybody can see this. What this is the update, the first tab in this spreadsheet. The link is below. It does have a limit from the Google Sheets where it will limit the amount of people that can be concurrently in it. But most of the updates and changes I make to it, I try to put in this first tab here, which is the version history at the bottom. So there's 3 major updates to the 3.0 version, which is the Eth-hash transition model, the GPU network analysis for May 2021, and then the GPU net analysis, which I'll show you, which is the GPUs and a spread of where I think the hash rate is. I'll explain where I got some of those numbers at, and then we'll get into that. We're actually going to work our way backwards through that, and we're going to start with the GPU net analysis, and this will start to make kind of sense, kind of like a Mr. Miyagi style, wax on, wax off. You're going to learn karate in this. GPU net analysis. So this very first tab here, and I have it set as a configuration because this is going to have some settings as we start to explore and go a deeper dive into the model, that I have every major GPU family type, be it NVIDIA and AMD here listed in the model. So you can see there the 3090s. I do have placeholders for the 3080 Ti and 3070 Ti's. There are some basic notes here. This network spread we'll get into of where that's coming from, the equivalent net hash of that spread, the total mega hash that these cards put out on an average. Now, again, there's always a brand mix combo, which means like you have something like an Asus versus a Gigabyte versus a EVGA. All of those have some different notional settings, and also their peaks that they can achieve on a particular GPU. So it's like a 3090 EVGA for the Win 3 versus, let's say, the base model Zotac card, maybe a couple mega hash away from each other. But that's why there's a spread here where it shows high, medium, and lows. I also got Kapow here, and anybody that's tracking like ETC Cash, and like Ubik as an example, those networks are going to have the same values because they're using a variant of Ethereum algorithm Eth-hash, where Ravencoin's Kapow is going to read about a 40 to 50% reduction in total amount of hash rate there. And you can see I've left a lot of the figures in there of how I've calculated it. On the AMD side, you'll see the same thing, AMDs and all the different network spread. Now, where I'm getting the basis here. We're taking a basic estimate that 45% of the Ethereum network is Asics. And that's kind of been ticking upward as these new batches have been coming online, and we're seeing month over month exponential growth on Ethereum's network, sometimes surging as much as 30 to 50 terahash in a single month. And we know that GPUs have been hard to get, but the amount of GPUs that are required to jump a network by like 25 to 50 terahash is a significant amount of GPUs. We're talking in the millions, and we know that that's just not what's shipping, right? So that where we started with about a 20% to 30% total ASICs on Ethereum's network, we're talking now potentially 45, maybe even 55% of Ethereum's network. We're going to see if it's going to hit that 50% threshold there. So I have a nice little graph there, and then what I'm doing here is I'm taking that basic spread. So if the ETH hash right now, this is a calculated number. It's actually pulling from an API. So we're at 606 terahash right now on Ethereum, and the GPU hash rate is being calculated. That other the other B15 cell here is being calculated based on that mix. So 55% of that 606 is about 333 terahash. 333 terahash. And then that shows you the spread of count of GPUs. If you were to start calculating the amount of count of GPUs, potentially up to 10 million plus GPUs deployed to Ethereum, taking a basic network spread here. So on column G, and you'll see also in column, let's see here, column T. So G and T columns have a network spread. And what this is this is taking a percentage of shipped GPUs, of all the shipped GPUs that I can find, or I'm going to have a source tab added to this. So I have a rolling sheet of where I'm getting a lot of the calculations from. I'm going to add to the source tab here, which is going to be just like you would do like in any kind of collegial paper where you're citing, where are you getting numbers from. But it comes down to how many GPUs that have been known, at least deployed, shipped, on top of also things that are published out there when it comes to like NiceHash's numbers that they're publishing of what types of GPUs are on the brokerage service. So why that NiceHash is only adding to about anywhere from 5 to 8% of the total net hash, we're taking essentially an aggregate of that as like a sample set that you would normally do in statistics. So we're taking a sample of the nice spread that's on NiceHash and then kind of bringing that up. And then when we take those numbers, you start to see kind of the distribution of hash rate right now on Ethereum by GPU type. Now, again, these are just plug numbers based on a sample set of information that we're able to grab, but this is a pretty decent representation, at least to start from, and it puts the network at about 56% of the GPUs of that 333 terahash that are NVIDIA. And that's really a testament to NVIDIA, considering the fact that if we would have done this test back in 2017, it would have been much more flip-flop the other way towards AMD. But NVIDIA being able to put out a lot more GPUs than AMD, the force projection, the amount of, just go to a store when you were standing in line back in October and, August through October, the amount of GPUs that were available on hand in NVIDIA compared to AMD really sets the tone for that. So that's where we're seeing, the transfer. And, most of the AMDs that are deployed are the RX 400 series through the 500 series with, pretty much, I think everybody can expect most all AMD Radeon 7s are probably deployed to Ethereum mining right now. I don't see anybody really using that as a gaming GPU right now. That's pretty much all deployed onto Ethereum. And those 130,000 plus GPUs essentially is the numbers that I think the numbers I could find was around 100,000 Radeon 7 had been shipped. And looking at that date of that article versus how many they could have shipped since then before they actually turned them off is about 138,000 at these rates, and you see the total mega hash that those put out there. So this is a breakdown of taking that percentage of the network over to the equivalent hash rate, and that's where this comes down to. So this shows you 4% of the network was Radeon 7s, this would be the equivalent, total amount of mega hash that is being used, or gigahash that's being used, 133 gigahash in this case, just purely at Radeon 7s. So this is a good breakdown mix. I'm giving you this tab first to kind of show you on some of the breakdown of where some of these GPUs could go. It's going to be relevant for future updates to this model because the mix and type of GPU really matters with some algorithms. So when we start talking about where certain, it isn't a matter of just net hash being the equal all across the board. We know that certain algorithms lean into RTX cards versus not AMD cards. So you're going to have a mixed split. So it's not just about the amount of hash power that's coming over. It's also the types of GPUs that are going to go to some of these networks. When we go to this, let me put a dismiss on this. When we go to the GPU network analysis, this was another tab that was done on the last analysis, and this is this is an update. So I did this out in March, and this is an update to March's initial review, and I've added a couple different columns here. So column G here is showing, there's a lot of people asking what happens to the Ethereum Asics that are on the network right now. Well, all of these ones that say ETH hash, these are compatible with those mining ASICs. So if you have a 2.6 gigahash ASIC, you could mine these other ETH hash coins because these had not made other changes. Now, something like Ethereum Classic is ETC cache. It's actually a tweaked version of that. It's not going to necessarily work on that ASIC. So, the ones that I have yes on here are where some of that force deploy. And what I'm showing here is the net change that's occurred since March. You can see some of these Aquila, Metaverse, short of Expanse. For some reason, Expanse went down significantly. Dubai Coin, Callisto, Moac, Ether1, and Cork Chain all took pretty big upgrades on their total amount of gigahash that was on them, and their price didn't necessarily reciprocate that necessarily. It did go up like a lot of other tokens, but they weren't hugely increased. So when we start looking at that, there could be some people front running some of these tokens with some of that gigahash that's available on, one of those ASICs. Because if you have a 2.6 gigahash ASIC and, you look at some of these total, like with something like EtherGem, you could deploy that ASIC for a couple days on it and almost go 20% on that network. So there is some definite possibility that some people could be running some of those ASICs on there just to kind of get a stack of those coins. And these are the ones that are going to be looking at and targeting when you're looking at where the ASICs, who's going to be the ASIC coin for all that deployed hash power. Is it going to be Zaquilla? Is it going to be, Dubai Coin? Somebody's going to absorb that hash rate and is price going to follow? That's the real question. ETH Classic, obviously, we're seeing 25 gigahash here, or 25 terahash rather. So the 1,000th number on this equals 1 terahash. So anybody's not tracking, 1,000 gigahash is a terahash. So that's why you're seeing 25.2 here on ETH Classic. And if we come down here, the ones that are discolored here, these ones are just different algorithms. That's why they're discolored down here. So they're showing the particular algo that they're with. And then what I've done here is I've taken a network total hash rate. So all these network hash rates here are all updated with the current network hash rates as of today. And I've taken an aggregate of that. I've done the algebra for us against this table of a RTX 3080. So I've taken a 3080 and its conversion of what a 3080 does to souls, as an example, in Bitcoin Gold. What's its conversion to where if that hash power was deployed onto Ethereum? So it gives us a baseline of what, while there's, equivalent to 14,000 3080s on Bitcoin Gold, if that hash rate was to come over, it would only equal about 1.3 terahash of size, right? So that's what each of these are doing, is they're converting it. And like with Ravencoin as an example, 5.59 terahash is its current total network hash rate. You know, when you convert that over, it's about 10 terahash of potential Ethereum hash rate, right? And that's down quite a bit. That's because Ethereum, Ravencoin right now, from this snapshot, Ravencoin hit a top of about 27 cents. It's came back down to about 9.5 cents, 10 cents. It's up a little bit today. But its hash rate has dropped 63% from the last time we took a snapshot when the price was well into the 25-cent range. So it's reciprocated, as most networks do. When you have a large price decrease, the hash rate usually follows that down. So, and that's the same with a lot of these other tokens that have now dropped in price some. They're all showing a pretty sharp net change. We could take a snapshot of this again in another month if price came up, and we would see probably a reciprocation to that on the network side. So when we look at some of these other networks, Vertcoin, Firo, had a large decrease. It was about 30 gigahash total in MTP algorithm, and it's now since going down to 15, following some price there. Ubik's up quite a bit. Ubik's up almost 50% on its total net hash. It went from 30 gigahash to 62, and I think a lot of that has to do, if you look at the coins that have done have really leaned into the DeFi side. So Ubik forked Uniswap, which then they made Shinobi from Uniswap, and now you can do liquidity pool stuff just like you can on Ethereum on Ubik, and it's very representative of money pump, kind of pouring into Ubik. Its prices went up to about 83 cents. It was down to like 15 cents at one point, and the same thing with Ethereum Classic, being the same kind of platform. So the ones that are really leaning into that are really reciprocating the growth there. So when we break this down a little further here, we can see the total net hash. This is not actually calculating the right net hash. So we're going to make a change to this real quick to make sure we're calculating it off of true net hash here from the API call. Let's make sure that it was doing it. There we go. So it's putting that out to that might have changed my numbers here because I might have been calculating. We're just going to undo that for right now. I think I need to readjust the calculation there. We're 603 terahash represented here, and then 96 terahash equivalent. So all the other networks combined right now, all the major networks that are out there combined are showing almost 100 terahash of equivalent GPU power. Now, when we spread that out, we're almost at 700 total net hash, the totality on the GPU side. And a lot of this is using assumptions. Let me go to this before we go a little on here. I'm kind of flying through this, but a lot of these calculations, and the reason why I'm getting into these calculations is because we know the types of algorithms, and we know that GPUs are mining these types of algorithms that Asics specifically haven't either been designed for them, or it's a really complex design for an ASIC, and there's not enough liquidity for an ASIC to be minted yet, as it were. There are tons and tons of tokens. There's almost 7,000 tokens out there. Of those 7,000, there's about 1,200 or so that are mineable, and of those 1,200 that are mineable, about 800 of those 1,200 have ASICs of some sort, because a lot of them share the same algorithm. Zcash is an example with its algorithm, and a lot of the older tokens that have since went to ASICs and haven't changed, absorbed the original Monero had its CryptoNight algorithm. There's several coins that are still on CryptoNight. Those have ASICs and FPGAs against them. So when we look at the spread of just those few GPU tokens that I'm looking at, those are the ones that I know that are still being used with GPUs and have enough liquidity to actually move a little bit of, all the way up to a terahash or so back on or off a network. So that's the real scope that we're looking at right now. So that 96 total potential terahash is actually deployed. That's what we're seeing on the networks live right now. So that's what I'm bringing up there. I just wanted to clarify that that's where a lot of these numbers are coming from. They're extracted from what we're seeing on the net hash results of these networks. And then we can do the math because we've done testing on all of these different GPUs, I mean, over the last several years, and then several other channels have done it. So I've had to really spread out to grab some of the other numbers, because some of these algorithms I haven't personally done, but I can watch videos of other people doing it and then capture some of their numbers on that too. So that's where we're looking at the total 700 gigahash or 700 terahash of total net hash out there. And then when we look at that breakdown, I like to separate that from like what's nice hashable, which means that's brokerage services. That's somebody that you could sell your hash rate to, and then they'll repoint your hash rate. About 37 terahash total is coming from NiceHash. So NiceHash right now has about 37 terahash. It has about 5.5% of the total network for Ethereum, a potential on NiceHashable. Right now, where people are selling their hash rate there, you can see there's just under 1 terahash is on Ravencoin, is NiceHashable. Conflux almost 1 terahash, and Beam is at 1/4 of a terahash in total of that breakdown. But here's a quick just graphic, pie graphic. 80% of the mining hash power is directly mining ETH in some way to a pool, solo mining, that sort of thing. And then the mix is about 13.5%, the rest of all the algorithms combined. So this is why this subject in general, and why I'm putting so much time into trying to analyze where this hash rate's going to go, because that big blue box down here that you guys see, that is what's going to come off of Ethereum when Ethereum moves to 2.0. That's why it's such a big deal. Where does this hash rate go? There's a lot of capital deployed in that blue box there. And where is that hash rate going to go? What's the price need to be for some of these coins to be able to absorb that? And when we break down, kind of a spread of algorithms or coins that are eating up a lot of that total GPU hash rate, we have kind of breakdowns here with Ethereum Classic and Quark, and you have I think this one's probably Raven right there. Ravencoin's right there at 1.4%. So, Ravencoin I think was about 4.5% there for a little bit when it was almost 12 terahash, but it came down. So that's that spreadsheet, and this is a May 2021 snapshot. I'm going to try to do these monthly so we can kind of keep a monthly snapshot of what's going on the networks. I have a lot of these models already pre-built, so I can then start just capturing some data here. So this is the last tab I'm going to get to with you guys. And this is effectively a work in progress. I'm trying to make this to where it's pulling numbers through APIs and making things a lot simpler for us here. But bottom line, we got some basic data being all pulled from APIs here, and I'm going to start to pull some pricing data here. So we have this, you can see the formula up there right now. We're essentially making an API call. We called Crypto Finance, and it's gonna, this one's hitting Binance. There's some that's hitting Bitfinex. You can see where I'm talking about right here, where I'm trying to pull the pricing data in real time. So we have a real time data set of information here. But as I start to fill this out, a lot of the things that matter here are block times, our reward per block time, and the price and yield per minute. I like doing it per minute because it's easy to calculate where the target hash rates, the target price predictions need to be to where this hash rate's going to be absorbed from. So when I look at like ETC, a funny figure with ETC puts out a block reward about 3.2 ETH per block every 15 seconds. It's about 13.8 to 15 seconds. That's the same as Ethereum when it comes to its total block time. The funny thing is when Ethereum is not heavily congested, it's about 1 to 1.5 ETH on the transaction fees. This is pre-EIP 1559 transaction fees, plus the 2 block reward actually makes it about the same as Ethereum Classic's base block reward, right? So because the Classic's price is about $77 right now, you got a total yield price per minute of about, the output of the network's about $1,000 a minute. Okay, to give you an idea of how much output it is. I put right above this to show you Ethereum's, and the reason why there's such a gap right now on these other networks compared to Ethereum's profitability is Ethereum having 80% of that network hash rate. It's being able to prop up that network hash rate because Ethereum's per minute output right now at an average of 3.4 coins per block, or per block for the 15 seconds, the 1 minute time, is about $38,000 a minute. is what Ethereum's output is. I've seen that as high as 70 to 80,000 a minute when we've had those high times of 10, 12, 13 coin block times. So when we look at how much that output is, you can start to see really quick. These are, and I haven't filled out some of these other ones. I'm trying to get this all automated to where I don't have to go in there and plug numbers. But when I start pulling in some of these other ones, EtherGem, Ella, some of these other ones, they're going to be in the less than $20 per minute. Okay, so they're going to be way down, if not lower. Like Corecoin here, because its block reward is 2.52 per block time, per 10-second block time, even though it's going to have 6 blocks per minute, and it's putting out 2 coins. That's about roughly 20 coins per minute. They're only worth 2 cents, right? So they're not, their yield is really low when it comes to USD extraction there. Ravencoin right now is about $488 per minute, which is about half of what ETC is right now. That's why we're seeing the Ravencoin blockchain have about half of its total network hash rate right now than it had even a month ago when it was 20 cents. Its total output right now is about $500 per minute. It has a lot higher block reward. This is why a lot of people are super bullish with Raven, is because its block reward is so high. It's 5,000 coins per block. It's every 60 seconds. It doesn't take much price to really start to make that number go up a lot. When we look over here, I looked at a price target in the next year or so at 225. If it go into 225, that's $11,000 per minute, which is still a third of Ethereum. It would really need to get to a point of like almost $9 to hit, up there around Ethereum. Actually, about $8 per coin. That's about 40,000 per minute. So to give you an idea of what the price would need to be performing to start to be able to compensate for the amount of net hash that would need to go over to it. It is a significant difference right now. Even with Ravencoin having 5,000 coins per block, it's still a pretty significant difference. Now, that's at the profitability levels that we're talking right now, which is actually crazy talk, where we're not even chasing to course to break even right now, because even with all the Asics on the network and all the GPUs, it's still highly profitable right now for Ethereum. So Ravencoin does not need to get to $2.25 to hold up and prop up the network. It actually only needs around 80 cents. Anywhere between 62 to 80 cents, depending on a spread with Ethereum Classic, which isn't a huge ask on Raven's side on the price point. When we look at something like Firo, it has 12.5 coins per block, and it has a block time of 300 seconds. So, you're looking at a yield of about $20.32 a minute. And then when I'm looking at theoretical hash absorption here, that is if the 0.41% that are the 0.05% of the total net hash, for it to absorb that 0.5% net hash, it would have to gain another 175 gigahash equivalent to absorb that. I'm looking at like a $35 price target on that one, which would still only give it a $87.50 yield price projection, which is still, like, minuscule compared to something like Ethereum that's in the $30,000 per minute price range. Again, but these are really the shift of movement on these are not that high to get that kind of price movement. So as I start to fill this out, I wanted to give you guys kind of a heads up of like, these are the base level calculations to see if Ethereum's hash rate slid over to these networks at the base spreads that we have over here, right? Where's that hash rate need to go, right? And this isn't even accounting for the 100% of that. That's, if I have a sum here, this is the current distribution of hash rate, with the other 80% being on Ethereum. So that's only representative 16%. So we need to get that, when that number needs to be 100%. So it's really, does 25 to 30% of that go to Ethereum Classics network? If this is 25% of all that hash rate comes over, that's going to change its net hash absorption to almost, what's that, 833 gigahash, or actually it's 83 terahash, right? So you're looking at, significant portions of hash rate moving over, or needing to move over. Actually, it's a little more than that because the calculation's off there. I need to fix that calculation there. But the right now, as an example that I was running on this one, so Ethereum Classic at a price point of $77, its current net hash at 25 terahash. If it absorbed its proportional requirement, which would be about 25%, that's about 139 terahash. That's where this is coming from right here. 139 terahash. If you take 139 terahash and you put that in a calculator right now at a $77 price point, you're actually still break even, barely break even. You're making about 4 cents a day on a GPU. I actually did it on a rig, a 210 mega hash rig at 850 watts of power usage at 12 cents per kilowatt. You are at break even. So that's your main detail there to give you an idea. Somebody says for $2, Sniper Nut, why is everything a deep dive now? Is it though? This is I must have named this a deep dive. It is a deep dive. So part of this is right now it is a deep dive from regards to to do the analysis on something like this and not just put your finger up in the air and go, oh, I think it's all going to move to Ethereum Classic. I want a little more detail of why something may be going there, and doesn't make sense that much hash power could come over and off not completely disjoin the way the network is right now. This takes it a little deeper than just a typical YouTube. Hey, let me give you my best guess. Right, I'm wanting to put some data to this. Look at the numbers. Look at how the networks have historically moved, and look at where this hash is deployed. So yes, everything with me by and large has been a deep dive lately. All right, that's the base setup of this model. The prediction side of this will come out of this out after I get the rest of this filled out. I want to show you guys kind of where I think things are going to end up going, and give some price targets of where things would need to go to make up that difference. So right now I've slipped out a few out there for you guys on ETC long term. If it absorbed it and got the recognition, you were looking at like $550 ETC price. We're looking at $2.25 Ravencoin price, Firo at $35. That's what it would have to go to absorb a lot of the hash power and make things break even. There's nothing saying that it needs to do that or it will do that. I'm just saying that's what it would have to do from an absorption standpoint and a price target standpoint to be able to absorb all that potential hash power. And again, there's nothing saying that that's the way it's going to happen. I'm not out there saying that's what it is. I'm just doing the inverse of the math of looking at proportionally what those networks would have to be. Sniper Nerf mods, I appreciate it. Yeah, no problem, my dude. And for anybody that hasn't been tracking totally, so typically I've been doing a lot of the live streams on YouTube. What I'm going to be doing here soon is switching all the live streams back to Twitch, and then we're going to have the recaps on YouTube. It just seems to play a little better with YouTube algorithm when I'm doing a lot of live streams. It kind of balls up some of the numbers, and it's just not really working as well as I think as the Twitch having the longer format live streams and then having the reduced versions for YouTube. You guys give me comments below. If you guys have made it this far, tell me if you still want some YouTube live streams or not. Maybe I'm completely misreading it. I just want to make sure that we're having some opportunity on both sides. I am simulcasting this on this. But I think I can get in a lot more longer. Some of those live streams will go 3 hours. YouTube doesn't really. I mean, you can do 3 hours on YouTube, but that's good stuff. But yeah, so hopefully this has been good for you guys. I wanted to, if there's a token that's not on here, again, this are all mineable coins, but I'm just really trying to give you guys some insight of where this stuff's going to go. Is Ethereum going to make actually enough progress to do the merge here in this year? That's their target. I have my opinions on that based on all the rest of the history of Ethereum. and just the way they have to adjudicate their process going through the EIP process and the testing that they have to do. And they have to get through EIP 1559 with no bugs. Berlin had some bugs that they had to fix. If folks remember, there was kind of a little disaster with Berlin that they had to go in and fix. If EIP 1559 releases without any problems at all, and the Eth1 team can actually focus on the merge, then yeah, I think they'll be able to maybe possibly get it out as early as this year. Still a lot of questions. I'm going to have content on that. We're going to cover where development is. I want to talk to some of the folks that are doing part of that merge to look at some of their concerns, just be super transparent on like what the risk is. As an investor in Ethereum, as people that have been in Ethereum, this is not a rush to failure type of issue that they need to get into. They do have a lot of pressure with a lot of these other networks kind of breathing down their back to get the next phase of this when it comes to layer 2. What everybody wants is layer 2. Faster transactions, cheaper transactions. The mining consensus side is kind of like when you look at the weight of it, I think it gets a lot of the attention. But when you look at the consensus side of it, what people really care about that use Ethereum isn't about the consensus algorithm that's used. We know that the consensus algorithm functions and works. It's the fees and the transactions and the user experience on Ethereum. That's what people really care and want. But they prioritize consensus change over layer 2. Right. And they're letting some of these other teams kind of take over layer 2. And that's where Polygon comes in. Polygon is an augmentation to a current Ethereum. It's not against Ethereum. It's not trying to take their users. It is Ethereum, right? It's part of Ethereum's ecosystem. But a focus on optimistic rollups, that sort of thing, trying to integrate that piece, maybe even having Beacon Chain be able to withdraw before the merge. That sort of thing I think would be more important, but they've prioritized the switch to proof of stake over it. So the folks that have proof of stake that's locked up right now, they want to be able to get their stake out at some point. So we'll see. But I'll take some questions and then we'll wrap this one up. Hopefully this has been a good one. You guys have enjoyed this. I'm trying to keep it up. And we're rocking out here. What the heck is Ergo? DeFi tokens. That's a good question, my dude. I don't follow it. I mean, I've heard of it, I've seen it, but I don't been focused on this. Heard the ETH 2.0 will run on some AWS servers. I mean, some stuff's going to be cloud deployed because the nodes themselves you want to have a high uptime. So there is this weird incentive to where you want to delegate your node to somewhere that has a high uptime for you don't get slashed. Thanks, YPA, for the kind comment there, buddy. What do you think about Pulse Chain, the ETH fork? I haven't looked into it too much. I know that Richard Hart is forking, or he's attempting to fork Ethereum and all of its functionality. I believe it's going to be a POS chain. I don't think it's a mineable chain, right? So I don't really track those because we don't mine them. I mean, I've talked to Richard Hart before. I haven't really talked anything about Hex or anything like that just because, I mean, we don't mine it and I don't really track it. What do you think the Cardano will take ETH's place in the future? I don't think so. I think they're going to coexist. I think they're going to. I think all the platform tokens in general that have functionality being built on them, they're just like a whole bunch of different development teams that are implementing different feature sets, and they're going to have different application stacks on top of them. Some are going to have more advantages than others. Predicated on that, but there's still a lot of growing that Cardano needs to do and Polkadot needs to do before it even can consider being taken a place of something like Ethereum. None of those networks have had a really heavy load on them even though there's a lot of development on it, there's just not a lot of other onboarding interest yet. I'm going to hate to say it. I mean, people don't think that it's a thing, but think the signal to noise on some of those other tokens. Mining provides a lot of grassroots engagement for people, and mining networks are, you have an automatic interest in a largest subset of individuals with a network when you mine. When you do a proof of stake, it's almost like pay to win. And you kind of put it in and you forget it. It runs itself. It seems to be a lot leaner, but you lose the organic discussion point. You lose the organic signal that is produced by all of the people that are mining and coming into mining. And, there's just, I look at it for for a short period of time, I had a Dash Masternode, and it was kind of like it was a load and forget and like fire up and look how things are going. But like, there's no engagement. When you lose that engagement side of it, there was no reason to really talk about it. It was kind of like you put some tokens in this thing and you're participating, but you're not part of experience of it. And when you look at the count of people, especially when you add brokerage services and all this other signal that you get from mining in general, it gives you a huge like base grassroots cultivation of potential new people in the ecosystem. So a lot of these tokens that are not mineable, I think, lose out on that grassroots start. Fiat money is proof of stake. I mean, technically, not really. I mean, fiat money, you work and you earn money, right? It's your proof of work is paid out in your base rate, and minus your taxes, right? So, in a way, cold hard cash is your proof of work paid out in a stable coin, right? And the stable coin over time, due to the devaluing of whatever it's based against, goes down. So like if you held money from like the 1960s and you just had it stuffed under your bed, that money has devalued, right? That's part of the inflation rate taking away your buying power, right? So like US dollar is like more like a stable coin, but its buying power goes down, right? So the things that you can do with it, where you have deflationary currencies that have an appreciation in value, which we've seen with like Bitcoin and some of these tokens that have, had reductions in total supply and that. And this is what effectively Ethereum is trying to do with EIP 1559 in a kind of a forced aggregate way, where they change monetary policies about every couple of years to where they now have decided to burn the base fee, and that will create a less introduction of Ethereum into the network. So we could go into a whole other video for that, but I'm trying to give you guys some bases. All right, I'm gonna take a few more and then we're gonna wrap this one up. Out of these three, which would you recommend to mine or hold? VTC versus ERG versus CFX. I mean, I don't know much about ERG and Conflux. I mean, both of those I need to research ERG. That's not even on my list here as one of the more mineable things. I need to add that one so I can give you a better thing. I've always been pro Raven, and the long term Raven's going to have its first halving in January of this next year to 2,500 coins. I think ETC, if ETC continues to innovate, they need to kind of get over some of the internal struggle that they're having. I know there's still people pushing for SHA-3, which is a bad idea, in my opinion, obviously, with I think what they did with adjusting the algorithm to give it putting the mess inside the algorithm gives them a lot of potential on growth when it comes to the ecosystem of being that one coin that gets a lot of the volume of the net hash next to Ravencoin. I think those two are going to really split some of it, but we'll see. Progress on immersion. So we've had to take down some of the actual racks and painting the floor, and so you'll see some pictures coming out for that. And we're getting ready for Miner Summit, and then we'll be able to get the tanks in there. So immersion's still going on. All right, my dudes, I'm going to wrap this one up. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, add some comments below, please. If I missed your question, I do answer some questions in the comments. Anybody that follows my videos, you see that I always interact quite a bit in the comments section. If I missed your comment that you asked there, put it down as a comment down below. And be sure to hit that like button because that helps the YouTube algorithm to get more people to this exposure. And I will catch you guys on the next one. There will be a recap video of this video tomorrow. For the folks that missed the full live stream and are like, I don't know if I want to go through the whole thing, we'll have a kind of a crunch down, straight into the point on that. And then we'll catch you guys in a bit. And yes, there will be one on this laptop. This is the Alien 51, Alienware Area 51 new laptop from Dell with all the goodies in it, 20 core processor and everything. So you guys will see that soon. But don't forget to hit subscribe too. All right, my dudes.